Okay, well, thank you very much for coming. I'm going to go, yeah, let's see, is there a clicker here somewhere? There's a clicker, I guess, somewhere, correct? I'll take one. Thank you. Excellent. Okay, thank you very much. So I am going to talk about reinvention. Let me start by just, hi Joy. Let me start, how many people here are working in a startup right now or directly connected to one? Okay, about more than half. And then how many people are working for what most people would consider a big company? Okay, so I apologize in advance to you. You'll understand in a minute. Now first of all, in a startup, you know, the great thing about creating a new business is obviously you get to create something completely new. You know, it's full of possibility, it's full of ideally it's full of your passion, and you know, you can paint anything you want. This happens to be Picasso's Guernica, but you can paint anything. Well, I'm going to tell you the story of Logitech, and it's a little bit like a story you could have heard from a lot of big companies. Because our story, we are creating our own story, our painting, and we're reinventing the company right now. So I'll walk you through that in a minute. But let me start, you know, you can't reinvent something without inventing it. So let me start with where Logitech began. I'll bet, who in this room knows where this is? If you look closely, you can figure it out. Somebody. A few of you. Okay, even more of you. If you look closely, you noticed a little bicycle shop. That little bicycle shop is on Palo Alto, it's in Palo Alto on University Avenue. The address, by the way, is 165 University Avenue. That happens to be the same place that Google started. So Larry Page and Sergey Brin know that address pretty well. It's also the same place that Logitech started, that PayPal started, that Danger started. A lot of startups have been successful here. It's an incredibly valuable piece of property for that reason. And this is our founder, the original founder, a guy named Darrell. He's from Switzerland. He actually looks better now than he did then. I'm not sure that was a very good picture. Krista, do not tell him I said that. Actually, you could tell him I said that. But he was probably about 25, 26 years old at that point, and he created something. And he created a company that was obviously serving the PC industry. When he invented the company, actually, Logitech came from Logiteal, which is French for software. So we actually started trying to be a software company, and he found somebody, a little company called Sun Microsystems, and another one called Apple, who were willing to let him make their mice. And for the next, 34 years, Logitech's been a company that makes mice for PCs. We expanded from mice into other things, obviously, into keyboards, into webcams, into headsets, PC speakers, everything that surrounds the PC. And that dream, if you're in a startup today, that dream that he created is just absolutely your dream. When the company started, it took about 3 years to sell the first 25,000 mice. So you can do the math. The average mouse sells for about $40. So 25,000 mice in 3 years. By the 12th year, they were selling 10 million. 15 years later, they'd sold over 1 billion. And to date, I think we've sold something like 15 billion products since its inception. Now, that sounds great, and your temptation is probably to say, why in the world is the CEO of Logitech up here talking about the original business model? Is he trying to argue that it still works? And the answer is no. Our business model did not work. About 5 years ago, it stopped working. So we had gone through a meteoric rise from zero to literally about $2 billion over a 30-year period or 28-year period. And then the PC started to slow. We tried to get into some other things. They didn't work. And we went into a slide. In fact, we went into a deep slide. In 2013, we declined by 9%. Our profit hit the lowest level in at least 8 years. So we were in trouble. You could say, and you'll pardon the analogy, but you could say we couldn't see the forest for the trees. I mean, obviously the mobility world was changing underneath us. We knew that, but we probably didn't move into the right directions fast enough. or as we jokingly said in the office, we couldn't see the market for the mice. So we needed more than a quick fix, because you know, the truth is, there's no such thing really as a turnaround. There's such a thing as continuously turning around. And Logitech had a long history of doing turnarounds of itself. It started as an OEM company. When the big PC manufacturers decided, why are we dealing with Logitech, why don't we deal with somebody else? We created our own brand and went to market. We started manufacturing in Ireland, and then we moved into Europe, into China. We have a long history of constantly trying to reinvent ourselves, and we needed another reinvention. A reinvention is quite different from what a startup does in many ways. In fact, I would say it's a lot easier because, and you'll see why in a minute, and it's also a lot harder. It's harder because you've got so much scar tissue and a muscle memory. Like in golf, if you learn how to play golf one way, and then they change the nature of the way golf is played, it'd be very difficult to change. So I'd say a lot of that scar tissue is the thing that makes me, is actually one of the things that excites me the most about this reinvention, is not being a big company. So for those of you who work at a big company, and even those of you who don't, you'll be able to relate to this. You know, big companies do so many things wrong that I could probably list them for the rest of the time I talk. Now, why in the world am I saying that? You know, first of all, there's a reason why Scott Adams created Dilbert. And I lived my whole career up until this point, in some way, shape, or form, working inside of big companies. Very, very good big companies. The best big companies. And in every case, I can tell you that a good small company is better than a big company every single time, except in one respect, which is scale. So scale is the only advantage that a big company has. And that scale benefit is often works against the big company. So you know, if I were coming out of school today, or I were, you know, 25 years old, I'd be very tempted to go into a startup because I think big companies like us are vulnerable. The reason we're vulnerable is because we have big, thick hierarchies. We do a lot of PowerPoint. We have lots of bureaucracy. Politics seems to show up all the time. And you know what? The same exact thing happens to small companies as they grow, and as they get older. So I guess one of my messages for today is, if you're in a little startup, never forget that you never want to stop being in a startup. You never want to stop being a small company. And it is hard work to get it out. So what are we doing? We're really working on this. First, we've taken out layers of management. Then we went to all open offices. I'm systematically trying to get out of PowerPoint. I did it for this presentation. I'm really trying to eradicate PowerPoint because it leads to sloppy thinking. We're trying to co-locate our team so that it's a much more open environment and people can learn from others without having to have meetings. We're just doing a whole series of things to try to be a small company again. Now let me talk about, we're a product company. We love products. Everybody in our company probably works there. If there's one thing you ask them, what do they like most about Logitech, it's what we make. So let me give you an example of the difference between a small company and a big company when it comes to products. About 3 years ago, we launched a line of music products, very good ones. We launched it like a big company would do. We launched a very full line. We launched headphones like Beats. We had speakers. We had earphones. We had a whole range of products. Because we're a big company, we launched them across the world because we could, because we've got reach, and that's our advantage at scale. We launched it in every country practically that we're in. We really went big because we were a big company, and we failed big because we were a big company. So after about 9 months of misery, the guy who runs this business and I sat down, had a soul-searching moment. We said, wow, what went wrong? And we realized we were just acting like we thought we were a big company. We had all the blind spots that go with that. So we said, what would we do if we were a small company? We wouldn't launch in 5 categories, we'd launch in 1. We wouldn't launch good products, we'd launch the best product, the best. We'd find a way to make it the best, most differentiated. For somebody, it's got to be the best. We wouldn't launch it around the world just because we could. we'd launch it into select places and make sure we were successful where we launched. So that's what we did. So we started over again. We launched one product, and that product was a little product called UE Boom. How many people in this room have ever seen this? This product became in one year the #1 product in our company, and in the second year it became the #1 product in the history of our company. We went from no market share at the beginning of this a little over 2 years ago to now we're #1 in Australia, #1 in New Zealand, #1 in Switzerland. We're in the top 2 or 3 in the US, top 2 or 3 in Germany. And it's because we got back to thinking like a small company does, a good small company. Now we didn't stop there, because the second thing, if being a good small company is one of the things we're trying to do, the second thing we're trying to do is be a design company. Now design is the most overused term probably in business today, and so you could absolutely accuse me of jumping on the bandwagon. But I started on this path about 10 years ago when I was running Braun, and I got very excited about design and design thinking. And so when I came into Logitech, I hired the best designer I could find to lead our design organization, a guy named Alistair Curtis, who was the head of design for Nokia. He has systematically built out a design team inside of Logitech. And our goal is to be a design company, not a product company. A design company doesn't mean design like a lot of you probably think of it. It really does mean advanced technology, great consumer or customer insight, and then the conventional definition of design. And we're well on our way. Now I'm going to take a minute, we'll see if this works. You're going to have to look at that screen up there. I want to show you the business model for what we're doing to try to turn ourselves back into a growth company. And then I'll talk a little bit about our results. Can you see that? Okay. So first, as I said, our objective is to be a design company. Some people would call that an innovation company. And as I said, that's built on 3 things. Advanced technology. Let me pause for a minute. If you walked into Logitech, either in our Bay Area office or in our Switzerland office or in our Taiwanese office, if you stayed there a half a day, you'd discover that what I'm saying sounds good, but we're fundamentally an engineering company. We have outstanding engineering capability. We could make tablets, we could make smartphones, we could make PCs, but we don't. Because obviously we don't want to compete with people that have that advantage of scale over us. So we focus very narrowly, but we have great engineering. So the key to this design company concept is to build it on outstanding engineering, or R&D. The second key is great customer or consumer insight. What does that mean? That means finding things that people love. It's that simple. Just finding things people love. They have to love them. You can't love too many things. So to find an insight that's unique, that you can attack and win, you have to find something people love. The third is this conventional definition of design, which is what most people think of: industrial design, user UI UX, brand design. Now the rest of this business model, it's not really a strategy, but business model is pretty simple. The PC industry is in decline, right? Most people would say that. It is. Well, that happens to be our big business, right? So what's happening to our PC business? PC peripherals business is in decline. It's in a slow decline, could be faster. What are we doing? We're innovating there, but we're reducing our resources in R&D from about 85% to 25%. We've already done it. We shifted those resources, so we're profit maximizing this, and we're investing them here. Now I'll explain why I'm drawing these weird pictures in a second. So the pictures, to be clear, this is the big tree. Think of it as a big, mature, old tree that's on its way to a slow death probably, or some kind of a slow, long decline. These are new businesses. These are all in markets that are growing 25% plus. In every case, we can either be the leader or we can be a leader, or we wouldn't try it because of our capability. So I won't go through what these are, but one of them is that Bluetooth speaker business, gaming, tablet accessories, and something called video collaboration. So we're investing here. And then the last one we're doing, to complete the analogy, is we're creating some new things. So we're investing here. What are these? These are seeds. So if this is the tree, these are fast-growing plants, and these are seeds. Should sound familiar. It's a very simple analogy, but it really works. And so far, so good. So this model works like this. We make money here, we invest here, we invest here, we grow new plants, and one of these becomes a big tree. Now, it's about that simple. And I have to say it's really fun. And everybody wants to know what the seeds are, and I'm not going to talk about it. But I will tell you this is working. So 3 years ago, we declined 9%. If you could boil the business apart, we declined 9%. And we had $65 million in profit on a $2 billion business. This last year, we reported our year-end earnings. If you carve out and look at the business, the go-forward business, we grew 7% in constant currency in the back half of the year. We tripled our profit. We've more than doubled our stock. And we're just getting started. I would also say we're winning a lot of design awards. Now, we've won over 50 design awards since we started this. We declared internally, you know what? We want to win design awards. Does it matter to everybody else? No. But for us internally, it will be one measure of whether we're making progress on design. Because if the experts think we're doing it, that's a good place to start. If our sales reflect it, that's a great place to go. And so far, that's happening. Now, I will tell you, we have a long way to go. We're nowhere near the end of this. I always say, and most of you will probably be able to relate to this, you know, when you were a little kid, at least when I was a little kid, my mother, about once every 3 or 4 months, she'd call everybody up to the doorway in the kitchen, and she'd say, okay, Bracken, stand in the doorway, and she'd get a ruler and a pencil, and she'd mark your height. And then she'd write next to it, you know, Bracken, April 6th, 1981, how tall was I? And that was the measure. You could see your progress based on that. What I'd say is, if I use that same analogy for us, I think we're about right here, relative to where we're going. But we're off to a very good start. Now, I'm going to close this, and I'm happy to take questions. It might be hard to take questions here, but I'm happy to take questions here or after, you one-on-one. I'm going to close this, and I'm going to ask an apology, because I'm going to tell you two things. First, I spent my career in big companies, and I'm trying my hardest to create a smaller and smaller company, the bigger in revenues we get. And I'm telling you, if you work in a big company, I learned a ton in them. I learned a lot in big companies. The best thing I learned in big companies was what not to do when I started to run a company on my own. So if you're inside a big company today, my advice to you is, you know, I'm not telling you should leave, but look really hard at all the stupid things that you're doing, or that your company's doing. And we're doing them today, so I'm not calling the kettle black. I mean, we do them, we still are too big today. But look really hard at the stupid things you're doing and remember them so that when you go do your own thing, or you join a smaller company, you can really drive change. Or if you get high enough in that big company, you can say, hey, this is crazy, why are we doing this? The second group I want to apologize to is, I guess, is the people who created this conference. Because I actually want some of you, a few of you anyway, to think hard about coming to Logitech. Or there are probably other companies doing what I'm trying to do, what we're trying to do at Logitech, and I'd encourage you to go to them, and I'll tell you why. I've probably met with, well, I meet with about 3 or 4 startups a week, in one shape or some way, shape, or form. The thing that I've noticed when I've done it, and I've never done a startup myself, so I apologize to all of you for speaking out of turn. The thing that I've noticed is everybody has a dream. And it's pretty cool. I mean, I have to say, you know, I was talking to somebody this morning, and he was saying, you know, I've met with all these companies, and 19 to 20 are not worth looking at. I must be easy, but 19 to the 20 that I look at, I think are really cool. I wouldn't invest in them personally, maybe, but I think they're almost always cool. Somebody's got a great dream, a great passion. Here's the problem, and it would frustrate me, so if you're in a startup, maybe it frustrates you. They all spend 50 to 70% of their time raising money. It reminds me of doctors. You know, when a doctor, I always thought it was ironic. You know, when I was in college, the smartest people in my college majored in the sciences. They did really well. They were brainiacs. They went on to medical school. The first 3 years of medical school were super cerebral. They're very interesting, intellectual. And then one day, on graduation, or right as they started their residency, somebody said, oh, by the way, congratulations, you've done a great job. You've been a great academic student. Now you're a businessman and a human relations person. So one day you have to stop being this academic and you have to become actually a business person, or even worse, you have to become a really social person. And that's what I saw from the medical field. So a lot of doctors, I guess, are probably not very happy with their jobs. I think the same thing happens in startups. You get into it for the passion, and a lot of times you spend half the time trying to raise money, which is not really what you want to do. You want to follow that dream. So what I'm saying is, there are companies like ours, well, we're one. We're looking for people who want to be entrepreneurs because we're creating these seeds. Now, we can't hire everybody in the room. We have 6 or 7 right now. We'll probably end up with 10 to 15, but we're looking for them. We've got people running these right now. I'd say one of the most successful ones we have is somebody who used to be an entrepreneur. And why is he there? A lot of reasons, but I guess one of them is it's a lot more fun to have somebody else give you the money. I will say, though, that just like in a startup, I don't believe in giving people too much money. In fact, I told my kids, I don't have a lot of money, but I told my kids that about 5 years ago, I said, you know that inheritance concept that you keep hearing about? You're getting nothing from us. When we die, you'll get 0, and maybe you'll have insurance. And the reason is, the worst thing I can do to you is give you the idea that you're going to have some comfortable living ahead of you. You want to work, you want to drive, you want to have your own incentives, that's what life's all about. And I think the same thing's true in startups. So in our startups, you don't get to just come in and have a free ride. You have meetings every week, every 2 weeks with me, with my team. We challenge everything. But in the end, I think we're creating some really cool things, some of which will become plants, and some of which might even become a tree one day. So, if you're really interested in coming to work for Logitech, I've created an email address just for this occasion. Feel free to send me an email. I can't guarantee that we'll hire everybody or even anybody, but I can promise you we're looking. And I can't believe that a lot of the other companies that I look at across it, people like Autodesk, and I bet they're doing the same thing. I don't know. Now with that, I'm going to stop. I guess we could take a few questions. Can we do that? Why am I asking permission? Let's take questions. Anybody have a question?
Any questions from anybody?
There's one.
Andy.
Of course, I just walked away from you.
So I think a lot of people in the kind of startup world tend to be the builders that you're talking about, the engineers, the guys who do believe that they can build the best single product to dominate one small part of a market. But I think one of the things that's so intimidating for people in that position and why they end up consuming a lot of their time with raising money is because they feel like once they get that product out there, the best product doesn't always win. And how do we compete with a company that has tens of millions of dollars to put behind like an advertising budget or a marketing budget? How would you recommend the engineer startup kind of mindset approaching that problem?
You know, I'm probably the wrong person to ask because I've never done it. I can completely sympathize with the problem. I don't know what to tell you about the best solution. I can just tell you what I would do. I would, like I said, I would not be intimidated by big companies at all. I would be respectful, but I wouldn't be intimidated. I would find, whatever you create, if you create something somebody loves, I don't mean likes. I don't mean thinks it's better than something else analytically. I mean loves the experience. And Peter Thiel's book, I have to say, to me is a masterpiece. This idea of finding something you can monopolize at its very early stages. If you can do that, then you just got to surround yourself with great people. And it's a cliche, so I'll say it again because it should always be said. If you don't have the background, find somebody. Maybe in a startup you can't afford to hire them full time. They're just your partner somehow on the outside. But I wouldn't be intimidated by it. I tell you, I'm blown away today by how many new brands are created overnight. When I was cutting my teeth in my career at P&G, one of the biggest advantages we had was, hey, it costs you $100 million over a couple of years to create a brand. So don't worry about it if you're in the hotel industry. Don't worry about it. Nobody can really touch you. Airbnb in about 12 months created a brand thanks to this little thing called the internet. So I wouldn't be too intimidated by that. In fact, I'd be happily naive about that, and just make sure you surround yourself with people who have expertise in social media and PR. And I didn't just say that for you, Krista. I know you're thinking that. But I would surround yourself with the right people, but I wouldn't be intimidated by it at all. And you might fail and then start again. Other questions?
Yeah,
Hey, Minnie,
over
go.
here, yeah.
Yep.
Can you hear me? How is law?
I'm on my way.
You whisper and I'll repeat it. Okay.
How is Logitech generating the seeds to reinvent yourself?
Okay. How is Logitech generating the seeds to reinvent itself? So how do we choose these things? It's basically, oh good, there's two sides. We're basically doing two things. Capability, opportunity. We're looking at everything that sits in that box. And it's got to be a market that's a lot less than $500 million. So if our capability can deliver it and it looks like a great opportunity, then they're in a big screen and we're making choices and there's a lot of judgment involved. What's that? Which ones? Oh, hackathons. Well, I don't know if we're exactly using hackathons, but we're using something like it. The thing I would say, I'll promote us a little bit. This is not my presentation, but it looks like a good one. I might stick around. What we've done in the last 3 years, we've taken three of those seeds and turned them into new businesses. Bluetooth speakers, tablet accessories, and something we call video collaboration. In 3 years, those are now $380 million of business. So we've been able to take those, one was a non-existent category, one was a current high growth category, actually two were. And so now we've got about $380 million of business. So it's not bad. I think we can do at least that or better in the future, but yeah, I mean, a hackathon, whatever you can do to make sure you find the space is the right thing to do. We have a lot of technique. Next question?
Right here.
Yes.
When you look at evaluating opportunities to invest, do you also look outside of your core competency? Or let's say if there's an opportunity that's outside of your core, what do you think about that?
I'll answer it a different way. We certainly do look at things where we don't have all the competencies we need because we know we're going to build more. So we're certainly doing that. And in many cases, we're building new capability right now because we know where we're going. But generally speaking, if we didn't have any of the capability, we wouldn't do it. Any other questions?
Any other questions? I think that's it. Yeah, Bracken, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.